Well, you should have said that in the first place.
Pathological demand avoidance, disinterest, a lack of motivation, a lot of anxiety.
He struggled with academic, social skills, and talking back to other teachers.
Pathological demand avoidance.
Talking back to other teachers.
PDA, so instead of public displays of affection. Pathological demand avoidance. I have some of this. It's not as extreme as super, but if there's just a demand on me, I do have a bit of a counter will response. But there's some people that have more extreme pathological demand avoidance. And one way of expressing it is talking back to other teachers and also playing the teacher role.
One day, he interrupted my lesson by engaging with other students. I asked him to put away whatever he had that he was playing with. But with irritation, he said no. So I retrieved his plaything. At the end of the school day, I asked him privately, why did he refuse my request? He looked me straight in the eye and said, because you didn't tell me, you asked me. When I explained to him that my annoyed facial expression, tone of voice, and strong eye contact meant it wasn't a choice, he replied, well, you should have said that in the first place, as if he were the teacher and I was his student.
Pathological demand avoidance.
Talking back to other teachers. Well, you should have said that in the first place.
You should have said that in the first place. That'll be a go-to.
Well, you should have said that in the first place. Well, you should have said that in the first place. Well, you should have said that in the first place.
So this would be a variation of denial.
Nope, didn't matter. Nope, didn't matter. Nope, you deserved it. Nope, nope, never happened. Nope, nope, you're overreacting. Nope, you're overreacting.
So you just get in trouble, then you say, well, you didn't tell me properly.
Well, you should have said that in the first place. Well, you should have said that in the first place.
I describe this tactic as pronoun jumping, so I'll just constantly refer everything into you. I'll forget first person.
Well, you should have said that in the first place.
Yeah.
You should have said that in the first place.
Yeah.
It's an easy go-to.
Well, you should have said that in the first.
It's when I say I don't understand pigeon, fish, goat, chicken, and then the instant response, oh, you're too stupid then to understand that.
See,
Yeah,
you,
back,
and then just flip it back. It's easy.
Yep, straight back.
So someone who's more verbally speed, they're faster, they can remember some symbolic equations, and they can just flip it back to even the playing field of the resolution challenge. The perception mismatch. So most people are able to, are assuming everyone is perceiving the same shared reality. And the people that can't keep up, they have the upside of more verbal speed because they can jump different things, time distortion in our eyes. But their weakness is they're not able to follow shared resolution, shared perception, context blind.
My assumption is that there's a genuine need for communication and understanding, and there's not. Because my plea, as it were, is genuine, but it's assumed that it's not or something, and there's no, on the other side, there's no real interest in any kind of validation or anything else. So it's a bit pointless.
Well, there isn't enough language on your side for them to follow it. There's too much spotlight from me. That's a complaint when I do it, because I try to condense language because my language circuits take a lot of energy. So the more precise and the less words I have, the better for me. But for somebody who's highly verbally landscape default, the more language and the more poetry and the more personal narratives, the better for them to understand.
Makes sense why Holly always asks so much details and story, and I don't get that. because it's irrelevant. But for her, it's
You-
relevant because
yeah,
she
for her.
needs all that sort of details and whatever. And that's the thing she's tracking. While when we're speaking, she doesn't track, which is weird.
It's different. Yeah, it's weird to us, but maybe it's just different.
Yeah.
So we can go back to one of Holly's earlier unguarded moments. May 2022.
I get triggered when I feel and sense very good that we are getting used for someone else's bullshit, because Holly was throwing in that video to get us triggered or react so she can be entertained or whatever she's going for. And I could feel it and sense it's very
That's not true. I wanted your opinion.
What's wrong with Kurt?
I wanted your opinion. That's all.
That's not true. So, but that's not true could be any one detail of your summary. So, Chantal's perception or understanding isn't important. What's more important is Holly wants to control the narrative, and the narrative isn't perfectly fitting her. And that's not true could be anything. In her eyes especially, because one little slight misstep can be sloppy map. Everything is totally wrong.
The bullshit, Holly.
That's
You're
fine.
just
You can think it's
using us.
bullshit. It's me. I was just sharing it because I wanted an
Sing some
opinion.
voice, Holly.
And you
sing
guys
some
shared
voice.
your
2 against 1. Let's see how Holly reacts. Kurt is still distracted.
You're innocent. You're always playing innocent.
Yes, but
I'm
if you
upregulated
genuinely
right now.
want someone's
Yes,
opinion,
I'm upregulated. Yes, I
you
am.
don't tell them, fuck your opinion if it's not what I want to hear. This is what,
Yeah.
if other people are having a different take and you're shutting it down, you don't want their opinion.
No, it
No.
wasn't a problem
And on
until
top of
you
that,
guys said
you're
I
using
had a
stuff
problem.
You don't
You-
even
This is her fighting for the 2 different narratives, so one frame versus the other, but she's putting more emotionality, or she's trying to, because it's 3 against 1, or 2 against 1. I think I'm trying to create a bridge.
guys
Exactly,
said,
see?
you said
That
I was
means
wrong.
you're
You
not
said I was
open for
wrong.
feedback.
You said I was wrong, so I'm the one who's wrong, right?
Yeah.
I'm the one
Yeah.
who's wrong.
Where did we
You're
say
the
you
one in
were
the
wrong?
fucking judge's
You're
seat.
always
You're
right,
in the
Holly.
judge's seat.
You're always right.
Yes.
Keep
You're in
yelling.
the
Go
judge's
for it.
seat. You're in the judge's seat. So stand
Yes,
in the
we're all
judge's seat.
judging each
I am
other. We're all
judged.
adults.
I am judged by
So
you.
what?
You
We're
don't-
judged by... You're being
Jesus
judged by us.
Christ.
Is that a mortal wound? Are you offended, Holly? You're upregulated that
No, it's
we're not giving you
It's
the
not.
moral high ground
It's not a
always.
moral.
Here comes the
It's not a
giggling.
moral.
She's changed states. She slipped and got too spontaneous. And
Oh, I think she liked it. She got to discharge a little Havisham energy, and off she went. And, ooh, it's the closest thing she'll get to an orgasm in her life, I guess.
she had her burst, but how long can she sustain it?
Oh, it's only a quick orgasm. That's all. You just get
Yeah, that's the
all over.
downside.
Yeah.
Upregulated that
No, it's
we're
not.
not giving you
It's
the
not.
moral high ground
It's not a
always.
moral.
Here comes the
It's not a
giggling and
wound.
the laughing.
It's not.
Here
Get
we
rid of
go.
the fucking fart on
You
me.
just screamed
Yeah, I did.
about judgment.
Sorry, guys, I
We're
hate
judging you. Okay, so what?
See, this is when Pankaj fires up. He
He
likes
had
the
more things to
drama.
hide behind in the past when the
Yeah.
group was livelier. Judging us, right?
That's
Fair
fine.
game.
That's fine. Good. Yeah, that's fine.
Now you're calm. See, that's why it's
Yeah.
useful to yell.
Yeah.
That's why it's useful to slam cabinet doors.
I know how to yell.
We
I
don't
never
see
said I
what
didn't know
she's
how to
doing
yell.
because she can
I know how to yell. I never said I didn't know how to yell. What's the logic in that statement? Do you see the perception misread? The sort of desperation to repair the verbal, the sloppiness, the franticness with this, maybe the blind spot with her back and forth here. About judgment. We're judging you. Okay, so what? You're judging us, right?
That's
Fair
fine.
game?
That's fine. Good. Yeah, that's fine.
Good. Now you're calm, see? That's why it's
Yeah.
useful to yell.
Yeah.
That's why it's useful to slam cabinet doors.
I know how to yell.
we
I
don't
never
see
said I
what
didn't know
she's
how to
doing
yell.
because she can throw anything, because she's just showing these innocent flowers. So, yeah.
Okay. What's the
Keep
problem,
up your
Chantel?
image.
See, Chantal's giving her something to fight against. That's part of her go-to strategy.
You have a problem with me, so come on. What is it?
I thought.
And that's also being teacher role, her God voice. That's one of her go-tos. If she can get someone to correct somebody, she can just hide behind that script, that role.
Look who's
You
here.
can
You think
listen
you can
again.
best me? Screw you. Screw you. Screw you.
So it's a desire to escape.
Screw you.
So it's a
Bring it. Screw you.
She's channeling
it.
Brene. Be warned.
Yeah, I'm not impressed. I take you to hell. Because
No,
I
thank
only
you.
like things when it really hurts.
No, thank you.
And Holly likes it.
Yeah.
Oh, Holly joined. That summoned Holly.
That's what I said. Look who's here. Havisham's.
You didn't hear
Havisham in
Brad
the
announce
house.
me? Mrs. Havisham. I'm probably the only one here who knows what you're talking about.
We're the elder statesmen.
Possibly.
We are the elder statesmen of the group, Holly. We should be leading the charge on these characters.
Oh, the poor woman.
I doubt that.
3 years.
Oh, there's
we're
a
back to,
third
We're
one.
back to 3 years ago when you had your meltdown, and I had COVID in New York. So they were good times.
Okay.
Yes, you were showing off some U.S. money.
Yeah, those were the days.
So do you see some of the logic of how the language, if you're following the words too closely, that is a social strategy. That is a communication strategy. A more extreme form is that when you master this as Kellyanne Conway, this will cause more headaches.
Kellyanne Conway. Do reports about Trump napping in court mean he lacks the stamina to be president again? I know he's not napping. It's fake news. Well, he says he's just resting his eyes. He's just taking it all in. What do you think, Kellyanne?
I'm bored, so probably he is sitting there. I'm
Right.
bored just reading the clips every day. I think that, look,
Pulls it out of his ass.
the media who covers him never thinks that their job is to get the story. They think their job is to get Trump. We've been living with this for 10 straight years. I think that's less important than all the polls that show people don't think Joe Biden's got the energy, agility, acuity. I don't think anybody would disagree with that.
All over the map.
I don't think anyone would disagree with that. So that's what she thinks. That's no evidence.
Probably Joe Biden's voters are not for Trump.
All over the map.
More than for Biden. I don't think there's a
All over the map.
single hidden Joe Biden voter in this country. I think there are millions of hidden Trump voters in this country.
But you know, I could show a video right now. We could put of
We see
Trump.
them all day
of
long. Trump is all day long. Trump is everybody's adjective, verb, noun in every
He
sentence.
pulls it out of his ass. Could I get 3 words into that sentence?
On that.
Look at the Duper's Delight smile. She's taking up the space. And she's not fully owning that she's flooding the space, but saying, oh, yeah, okay, we'll give you a little bit, maybe.
You had a long oration there. I'm just going to say, I could put together, and people have, a video of Trump looking absolutely just as senile and doing crazy senile. And of course, Joe Biden is not actually crazy. Your guy is actually crazy. He doesn't make decisions rationally. The reason why he's so ahead is because he doesn't have to worry about policy points that he makes because no one takes him seriously anyway. He's all over the map. He pulls it out of his ass. He changes one day for the next.
We all have the same bias in hiring. We hire people to do a job who have done the job before.
Changes one day for the next.
You ask them about their experience. You look at their references. You call people about their work product. We have that bias. And so now people, for the first time in centuries or ever, have an opportunity to look at two presidents.
So she's amazing at keeping the frame and then projecting it and doing it with rhythm. We could label that as symbolic equation, but you could also label that as maybe nonverbal learning disorder. So she has highly verbal acuity. And then context and perception, she doesn't need to have it all make sense. Which ends up being a superpower in that she's not actively fragmenting. She's free to be highly schizotypy with verbal imagination and expression. So if she has her frame well defined, then all she has to do is listen to other people's words and find a way to constantly pivot, constantly flip it into the frame. She's using all her creativity to spin whatever she hears. Do I have it?
The problem is there is an ever so slight element of truth. She was right. Biden was senile. Completely cooked.
Well, that's in the original Sin thing, yeah. So that was the Republican side, but at the same time, she's still trying to sell a certain thing, and that was her strength. Where did my spin go? Oh, I guess it's newer. I have to get to that.
About their work product. We have that bias. And so now people, for the first time in centuries or ever, have an opportunity to look at two presidents who have served in the job as commander-in-chief, as president of the United States, and you decide, do I feel more comfortable or better off with one or the other? It's a binary choice. It's very clean.
All over the map.
But as for policy...
It's a binary choice. It's very clean.
You can't argue with the facts. You can't argue that 2019 we had the highest wage per household and the lowest poverty rate in modern history. I mean, things were going well. The trade deals, the border was more secure. I mean, these things matter to people.
The biggest fact.
He's getting resigned, but he's going to stonewall this. Will it work?
In the last 3 elections is that one guy does not concede when he loses.
He thinks he's got to win, right? Looks like he's confident. Can she spin it?
Tell him to be a man. That's what men do. You ever watch the end of a football game? They fought like hell, and the coaches, they walk across the field and they shake hands.
At the same time, do you see how much energy he's putting to get this script out? To get the body language and all that stuff. He's doing tons of energy and focus because he thinks he has a strong point. And it should be a winning point. But is she able to sort of deflect it or just ignore it still?
They don't want to do it.
She doesn't seem like she's fully lost.
It hurts like hell, and they do it.
It's a good message.
He's the first guy who just won't do it.
It's an equally good message for the many.
Pulls it out of his ass.
Democratic members of Congress.
Unaffected. He did all that work to get a good script and a good line, and she still has a comeback. That's the...
Spin. Spin for me, baby. Spin. I'm enjoying you. Spin. Spin. Spin for me, baby. Spin. I'm enjoying you spin. I don't agree with that. 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 I don't spin. Spin for me, baby. Spin. Here's a torch. I'll make you blind. See? Here's a torch. I'll make you blind. See? Here's a torch. I'll make you blind. See? Here's a torch.
So you start to break state in order to understand what I'm saying. So you start to break state in order to understand what I'm saying. So you start to break state in order to understand what I'm saying. So you...
What if that's a game? What if that's helped them survive growing up? So this is a big muscle to play this sort of state shifting time distortion, perception pulling, highly verbal landscape. And then we can morally judge time distortion. I can morally judge fragmenting, thought disorder, but it's not going to weaken their verbal speed and creativeness, schizotypy, spin, constant spinning.
I am better at talking than doing. Better at talking than doing. I am better at talking than doing.
Spin. Spin for me, baby. Spin. I'm enjoying you spin. Spin. Spin.
And the current landscape is rewarding people that have better verbal skills. They don't have to be connected to actual results or behaviors. Now, if you can be a talking head, you can get pretty far.
Many of whom are still there because they're in safe seats forever, who have never voted to certify a president.
So this was out of Bill Maher's outrage here. Look how confident he is.
It's a good message.
He's the first guy who just won't do it.
It's an
The first president that never has stepped down.
equally good message for the many
Pulls it out of his ass.
Democratic members of Congress, many of whom are still there because they're in safe seats forever, who have never voted to certify a presidential election of a Republican candidate in this century. They didn't do it for Bush, Trump. No,
That's
this
the
matters.
weakest
Still,
whataboutism I've
excuse
ever
me,
heard.
it's not a what.
He even calls out the tactic and then she counters it.
What about it? They either did or they didn't. They won't certify the election results on their January 6th.
All over the map, pulls it out of his ass, changes one day for the next.
You decide. You decide.
So it's a resolution war. The mind can only track so much stuff with working memory. So somebody who has less working memory can flood enough cognitive dissonance and time distortion to even the playing field. The more I talk, the more I want to pull you off point, and I will forget the point, and you will forget the point, and bam. You join me in my world. And I can play teacher, so then I can dump blame and other stuff onto you. And that's what I'm good at.
It's hard to describe. It's hard to describe. It's hard to describe. It's hard to describe. It's hard to...
What else here?
But if you have NVLD, they're not going to understand that. You're not going to get that break and compassion because you need support because you're so well spoken that they think you're brilliant. And because you have very high to superior verbal intelligence. But where the gap is you have very low perceptual reasoning. So it's a huge gap. So what you appear to be able to do, you may not be able to do.
People with NVLD usually, are above average IQ in verbal expression, but they're lower in performance, or perceptual reasoning.
The lower in spatial acuity and perceptual reasoning, it creates a bit of a cognitive dissonance in the audience and in other people because we assume the high verbal equates to some level of equal perceptual reason. But what if it's evidence that there's an imbalance? And then you tack that on to working memory.
low working memory. So it says fluent use of a strategy is critical because it allows students to use the strategy without taxing their working memory. So you got to have a strategy in place to aid you with that low working memory. Struggling students often have difficulty because their working memory is overloaded and information is not processed properly. That's NVLD in a nutshell, low working memory. Well, that's my whole life in a nutshell, low working memory.
NVLD has low working memory struggles, and then does schizoid defenses have working memory issues?
Well, their working memory closes in.
Yeah, so once
right?
the working memory starts closing in significantly, I couldn't differentiate what was happening around me. Reality was essentially warping, and I felt disassociated or derealized for like a week straight. I didn't know what was happening.
1 week straight. So if working memory collapses, the demands of life collapses working memory.
I had a new baby. I was going to school. I was working a full-time job. When all that was adding up, along with a bunch of other stuff, for a good week straight, I was irrationally terrified of everything. I couldn't watch the movies I normally watch. I couldn't read the comics I normally read. I couldn't play the video games I normally play. I couldn't listen to the music I normally listen to. All my free time was spent just in calming situations as possible, because I was terrified of everything, because any little thing, any concept, and then it would turn into this and this, and it would extend itself all the way into this existential dread and nihilism. So for that week straight, I was in a state of panic and existential dread.
So if he's motivated that if his working memory is flooded and collapses, he will feel inner panic and dread. Social consequences come second. Your guilt and shame and moral judgment. Someone with working memory deficits or threat of losing working memory doesn't give a damn about your moral outrage. Because working memory gives them annihilation terror. So their inner claustrum, their inner terror, their counterphobic rage, the inner fear is more of a motivator. So you got to figure out how to frame their inner collapse as a motivator, not you as the external enforcer, superego. Unless you somehow figure out how to cause more pain than their inner terror, I suppose, but I think the inner terror is like 1 week he was stuck with that, plus anhedonia.
That I couldn't shake off until eventually my stress levels from the external world reduced, and so my working memory expanded, and so thus I was able to contextualize things a lot better, and then guess what? I was able to slowly get back to my normal hobbies and interests. When I wasn't panicking, I was in a state of anhedonia and just disassociation. Derealized for like a week straight, irrationally terrified of everything. I didn't know what was happening.
Irrationally terrified of everything, so underneath the paranoia. Or what if paranoia is a defense against falling into irrational terror of everything? And that's the doorway is working memory. So if working memory is stressed, they freak out.
Working memory. So it says fluent use of a strategy is critical because it allows students to use the strategy without taxing their working memory. So you got to have a strategy in place to aid you with that low working memory. Struggling students often.
So if working memory gets taxed, then the symbolic equation, the script will be more looping, more rigid, more go-to. And part of the go-to script is, you're wrong. Part of the script is...
Well, you should have said that in the first place. Well, you should have said that in the first place. You should have said that in the first place. You should have said that in the first place. You should have said that in the first place. You should have said that in the first place.
You're wrong.
Pathological.
You should have told me.
You should have said that in the first. You should have said that in the first place.
You didn't communicate it clearly enough for me. You need to be my parent. That's the go-to. When working memory is stressed, then find someone to blame and transference, projection, and say, you're the cause of every problem in my world. Let's go back to this one.
But narcissism and borderline, at least, are relational disorders. For example, if the borderline or the narcissist were to be isolated, were to be, most of the manifestations of a disorder would vanish. There would be a total disintegration of the person, there would be psychosis, there would be attempted suicide, and so on. But 90, if not 99% of all the manifestations of borderline, behavioral manifestations, will vanish. Because it's relational.
Right.
It's in relation to someone. By the way, the criteria themselves.
So if NVLD might be a relational error, where people who have some level of NVLD and schizoid and perceptual reasoning deficits, they can communicate to each other. They probably can't coordinate that well because their common bond is paranoia, but they can connect with their shared struggle. But because they're a minority, just like autistic people, when they try to connect to the social norm of communication, they will struggle and they will have relational disorders. And what if narcissism and borderline also share some level of working memory deficits? High verbal imagination, empty schizoid core.
Are relational.
Yes.
Even in the new model,
yeah,
about 80 or even 90% of the text is about interaction with other people.
Yes.
Both disorders are founded on an empty schizoid core.
Okay.
Schizoid simply means that you had internalized a bad object.
Okay.
By the way.
And you have no core. Ponkage's admission. What if you're talking to, you're assuming someone has a core when you're talking to them? If they have empty schizoid core, there's no core.
Schizoid disorder starts with internalization of a bad object.
Yeah.
And you have chosen to avoid all objects.
Ah.
For example, narcissists go a lot through schizoid phases. They have a lot of schizoid phases.
Yeah.
Narcissist doesn't get supply. He isolates himself. He becomes schizoid.
Yeah, yeah.
Similar, borderlines are similar. After a major trauma, rejection, humiliation, abandonment, they can go through a schizoid phase where they have no sex, they don't meet anyone, they become cat ladies or whatever.
So would it, like a deep loathing and distrust of humanity and then a choice to self-isolate, that would be schizoid?
There's a schizoid phase. But
I know what I am now. That's great.
A schizoid phase.
He knows what he is. What is the description? His summary.
Loathing and distrust of humanity and then
misanthropy, loathing and distrust of humanity, because if humanity is projecting upon him and other people who have perceptual reasoning, limited resolution, is expecting them to get it. And when he doesn't get it, he gets punished. He gets excluded. So humanity will seem very threatening, unfair, unreasonable. Not welcoming, dangerous.
A choice to self-isolate.
So then self-isolate?
That would be schizoid.
There's a schizoid phase. But
I know what I am now. That's great.
Schizoid phase.
And even here, a couple, I think this was earlier when Pierre was talking about his schizoid regression.
I was severely traumatized, dude.
Look at Richard being like collapsed in his posture. Big head with shoulders.
Like really, like seriously, I couldn't be around other people because I actually thought I was going to get hurt. Or
now, what another side of verbal acuity is, every word might trigger an emotion in Richard or anyone else who has high verbal acuity, high verbal sensitivity. That's the back door. The way they speak is all this spread out words, which has a little bit of a sugary, giggly flavor. But if they're hearing someone that says things in first person or highly emotive, maybe they're going to feel that because the whole world is self. There is no separate self and other. So if Chantal is talking judgmentally about Sheila with a lot of disgust, they might feel like Chantal is yelling at them. Or if anybody else who has more autistic, feral, explosive, emotional energy, that will bleed over to them as a listener, and then he'll feel the words. So is Richard feeling the words that Pierre is saying? Let's continue.
Or like attacked verbally or physically. So to be like in a fucking
and look at the dissonance of how smooth he's describing it. And then look at Richard overreacting to the story, maybe.
school setting, it was like slow exposure therapy where everybody is just kind of nice and kind of just learning Czech together. And ever since those first few classes, I really got comfortable with like reaching out to people and hanging out and going out and about again. But it just took that first little step of like a safe setting to socialize and be around others. I was like, oh God, I'm not being fucking trolled. No one's screaming, fuck you to me.
No one's saying fuck you. Richard tries to smile. Good night, Gonzalo.
I just internalized, like I was folding in. Like no energy was properly being like recycled outward.
Is that a tear?
It fucking drove me schizoid, man. It was crazy. I'm finally viewing Prague as pre-pandemic Prague now. Like it's starting to feel a lot more like how it used to be, and kind of like, oh, I can safely just like kind of walk on the river again, and just like meet up with random people, fucking drinking coffee. Like, okay, all right, you know, this is finally feeling a bit more normal. And I can 100% attribute all of this to the lockdown. I think when that shit really started happening, man, I got so comfortable with that state of mind and like so anxiety ridden and just fearful of the fucking outside world that I just continued that path for way too long. Fucking drove me schizoid, man. It was crazy. Like no energy was outward. Like, I was folding in. Fucking drove me schizoid, man. It was crazy. Folding in. Folding in. Schizoid. Folding in.
Are the eyes leaking anything? Is that anxious? Is that fearful? Is that looking inward? Is that relaxed?
Associative. Dissociation.
Dissociated, yeah.
Yeah. And sort of trying to contain the emotional expression. He has no clue how to deal with that.
He's trying to contain himself.
Yeah.
And he doesn't know what to do.
He looks kind of like a baby, like a scared child.
Scared child.
We do not know how to regulate. How the fuck do I do that? We do not know how to regulate. How the fuck do I do that? We do not know how to regulate.
So one way to regulate is when he's talking, but if he's listening to something that's too emotionally loaded, concentrated, and it hits certain memory buttons.
Yeah, it's the mouth.
Then
we do not know how to regulate. How the fuck do I do that? We do not know how to regulate. How the fuck do I do that? We do.
And in a sense, I think Richard and other people with more impermeable or permeable boundaries where they're just taking in stuff and acting it out, most of society doesn't recognize it. So his body language and his tells are leaking all this stuff, but we're not supposed to call it out. But are we doing people with this lack of boundaries a favor by not calling it out, enabling their intimacy? Could that be Pankaj's complaint that when it gets intimate, you leave me? The dancing doll thing.
I'm just a dancing doll for you guys. But the moment it's intimate, you fucking leave me. I'm just an entertainment dog. The moment it's intimate, you fucking leave me. I'm just a dancing doll for you guys. But the moment it's intimate, you fucking leave me.
Nobody gives a fuck. Nobody gives a fuck. Nobody gives. I don't know how to. So one, you're disturbing me, and two, you're making me feel incompetent. Fuck you. I don't know how to. So nobody gives a fuck. Nobody gives a fuck. Nobody gives a fuck.
So you share your trauma and no one gives a fuck. When he acts too naturally, no one gives a fuck.
I'm just a dancing doll for you guys. But the moment it's intimate, you fucking leave me.
Because it's a dissonance. If we're in shared reality and the norm is to track the shared timing, we're in the shared time frame. And if I'm sharing the story, or we're all listening to the story, we put our attention on the person who's telling the story. How much do we put on the person that's receiving the story and how they're receiving the story? So if that's one of the few times that Richard Grannon leaks out his schizoid traits, and then no one sees it, and he's not able to put into words, maybe that's why there's a lack of trust or limited trust. And then maybe also like Stephanie Fu, when she was describing where she doesn't trust people, or she has trust issues. She had some schizoid-like defenses.
What is so beautiful about your story is that it has, I consider, a happy ending. Can you share that?
She's trying to load a validating narrative, and Stephanie Fu, does she agree or disagree?
I think that I have more hope than I ever have right now in the future. I found a wonderful family to
Any time distortion.
sort of provide me with some of that support and acknowledgement. And who see me and who show up the ways that I ask them to show up. I have a really tremendously supportive partner who like gets triggered himself and, you know, has his own traumas, but like is really intent on working together on them.
How did you trust him and then give yourself permission?
How did you trust him? And we were talking about trust in the in-person today.
Did you trust him and then give yourself permission to fall in love?
I don't every day.
I don't trust him every day.
Mm-hmm.
There's
Thank
many
you.
days I don't trust him.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, you're shady.
Mm-hmm.
You don't care about me, you know? There's plenty of still like, you don't care about me. And you know, but then he shows up.
Yeah.
And then I say, you don't care about me. And he's like, I do.
Mm-hmm.
And
He has to chase.
he said that 1,000 times now.
1,000 times.
And there's days where he's like, you don't care about me. And I'm like,
How dare you say that?
and I'm like, I do. And how dare you not see that already?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I think you he just kept showing up.
Mhm.
And I think for me, I don't know that I'll ever feel totally safe in this world, but I
Ever. We're not taught to take these statements literally, so she'll leak out literal truths about herself, intimate stories, and we soften the message because we're not supposed to spotlight and investigate these little reveals, because they're, even she's trying to reveal herself, or maybe there's an automatic bias to try to be truthful. But most people will leave when it gets too hot or intimate or too traumatic, or reject it, override it.
know that like I have to jump, I have to take chances, I have to grab happiness where I can and try
I have to grab happiness where I can.
and let the people who want to love me. Or else I'm just going to have a very empty life. Gonna have a very empty life. Empty life.
The inner claustrum of the schizoid defenses. It's safe, but it's also very empty, and you deal with the anhedonia. You get some of this.
You know, it's unbearable at times.
I mean, it can be unbearable, and it can be unbearably beautiful. You know.
Yeah. I mean, some of the best aesthetic experiences I've had are in those states, in terms of appreciating film or television specifically.
Or in the case of somebody who's deeply schizoid, you know, jumping off of film or television and reorganizing the categories from the, you know, and then living
just in their
that.
own thoughts and their own internal world and stuff.
I mean,
yeah.
Like, I've had my cave since childhood. I grew up in the cave. I am in the cave. I'm part of the cave. The cave is part of me. There's times in which I see something scary in the cave and I run out. So there'll be something in my cave that terrifies me, like existential dread, death anxiety, you know, all sorts of really abstract ideas that could cause me a lot of distress and fear. And then I might run out of my cave temporarily just to like ground myself to something, my video game or something, or
I have the same
my fiction book, right? Like it's like I can't be in my cave
And you're
right
gonna
now.
hate me, but so I would call that behavior an adaptive defense mechanism.
Well, he's agreeing.
I agree with you. I'm running out. That's the thing. I'm running out of my cave, right? But what I'm saying is that
but sometimes running in is also
right. Exactly, and so it's movement across the territory.
But we're usually in our cave. Like on an intuitive level.
Yes.
What super sucks though for a lot of Zoids is that if there's something scary in our cave, in our abstract world, and we run away to, I guess, the equidistant, we get there and then there's scary shit there. And then it's like, oh,
and we're
fuck.
We're stuck in this, like, we're like stuck between, like, which way do I go?
Well,
like,
it's all scary.
Yeah.
It's all scary because you're either alone in your...
It's scary everywhere. So if containment breaks, inner cave, outside of the cave, both scary. That's the sort of schizoid dilemma. Oops. Damn it.
You know, it's...
But what I'm saying is that
but sometimes running in is also
right. Exactly, and so it's movement across the territory.
But we're usually in our cave, like on an intuitive level.
Yes.
What super sucks though for a lot of Zoids is that if there's something scary in our cave, in our abstract world, and we run away to, I guess, the equidistant, we get there and then there's scary shit there. And then it's like, oh,
and we're
fuck.
We're stuck in this, like, we're like stuck between, like, which way do I go?
Well,
like,
it's all scary.
Yeah.
It's all scary because you're either alone in your cave and when
what
the scary
you want
thing...
to find out what happened in the cave.
But you wish you were someone in there in the cave to fight the scary thing with you?
So there is a desire to fight the scary thing in the cave, but how many schizoids or people with schizoid defenses are willing to share their inner cave or invite someone to join? Let alone can they describe the inner cave in words. because I think part of that is the disowned aggression. So by not having the disowned aggression, navigating the cave and inviting someone else with words, that's too big of a step.
Because you want to remain in your cave, but sometimes the cave is scary.
Yeah,
But you
yeah,
have, but you can't fight it alone, right? That scary thing
Right.
in the cave. But you want to go back there because that's where you're comfortable. Sometimes there's scary things out there. The problem is when you run out to the outside of the cave into the interpersonal world, there's still no allies there either.
Yeah, and
you
you
know what
have
I'm saying.
to
So
be
you have
to be
no
self-protective.
allies anywhere. Like, and it makes it that much
Well-
more difficult.
But people are dangerous. So then is there any trust to build allies? So this cave metaphor, does it match Richard Grannon's cave metaphor from summoning the self? Are there commonalities? Does anyone notice any commonalities, or is it totally different?
Think of it this way. Under conditions of no escape and perpetual ongoing abuse, I shrink and shrink and dissociate and dissociate. I'm going to invisibilize myself. I'm going to shrink back and shrink back and shrink back. And then I'm going to go not just into my cave, but into a crack in the cave at the very, very back. And that's now my authentic self. Shrunken, invisible, and hidden, and kept away from the real world. That's part one. Part two is I make a decoy, a straw man, so that the predator can eat.
The decoy could be the fawn self, the dancing doll.
But I leave that at the mouth of the cave as my sacrifice. This is my fawning response. I give you this so that you don't eat me. This is where I fawn.
Whatever makes you go away, I'll agree with anything if it'll make you happy and shut the fuck up. Whatever makes you go away, go away. Whatever makes you go away, I'll agree with anything if it'll make you happy and shut the fuck up. Whatever makes you go away, go away. Whatever makes you go away.
So what if the dancing doll in the front has a limited script? There isn't that much bandwidth, and inside the cave there isn't language. So that when they regress from their working memory being flooded, and they get lost between the cave and everything scary, they lose language. They can't communicate their fears. And even if they can, other people can't relate. So they say, I don't get it, fuck you. So they give up on trying to connect from their working memory collapse. Also, they get flooded by all the flashback stuff, so then that's even more scary shit.
So I've given you a doll or a decoy to consume, and then the predator walks away satiated. They have dominated you, they have abused you, they've proven their superiority to you, and they walk away full, proud, arrogant, haha, I showed you. But actually, secretly, the codependent knows, haha, the joke is on you, because you didn't eat me. You ate the decoy. I am safe back here. But over time, the more you get used to living like this,
the price,
I think it becomes addictive, because there are advantages to all of this that we rewire to, like less is expected of you. Other predators in the environment leave you alone because you're not a threat. Other people don't expect as much of you. You don't expect as much of yourself. The tribe, culture, society stops expecting much of you. And you end up kind of a funny, bumbling idiot. That's the decoy. That's your pretend self. I'm not even worth, don't hit me, master. I'm not even worth your attention. I'm such a bumbling buffoon. Funny idiot, bumbling buffoon. Funny
Who does that sound
idiot,
like?
bumbling buffoon. Funny
Who does that sound
idiot,
like? Yeah.
bumbling buffoon.
No one. What?
Funny idiot, bumbling buffoon. Funny idiot, bumbling buffoon. Funny idiot, bumbling buffoon.
So this is a tell from Richard Grannon's Patreon group that lasted a couple months, I think. And Richard reacted strongly to this, but I don't know why, but I think because of the question about existential dread, that might have been the trigger. It got too close to the inside of the cave.
What approach do you take personally? I just get on with my life.
So how can people deal with feelings of dread or doom when it's well-founded? So this is asking about maybe nameless dread. You talked about a medical condition you have that won't be problematic for a long time, but is there on the horizon. In that sort of situation, I understand there's a practical approach, preparing financially, minding your health, and a philosophical approach, living for today in accordance with personal values. But for moments when dread creeps up unexpectedly, like during your sleep, what approach do you take personally? To Richard, who has struggled with sleep apnea, which maybe he's got surgery or losing weight is helping now finally, but he didn't really figure out how to handle this. He personally hasn't found an answer for this question outside of going for walks and struggling with sleep nightmares and stuff. So he responds,
What approach do you take personally? I just get on with my life. I just get on with my life.
Ignore it, move forward.
I'm very concerned with this line of questioning, and it's
how dare you ask this question? It's too triggering for me.
It's a good question. It's a very good question. I'm very concerned that I'm contributing to this and making people worse.
What? How does this question mean he's making people worse? Is that throw a lot of emotional energy, then jump to a different question, jump to a different sandbox, and then people are going to forget this long-winded question and will follow along. This is the strategy. Because people only have so much resolution bandwidth to keep track of everything, so I just keep talking and create enough emotionality. People will jump frames with me.
Into this and making people worse. How can a person recover if they have no faith in their ability to endure discomfort or pain or in their natural ability to heal, because in their lives they've never been challenged and overcome anything?
They have no life experience of succeeding.
These are deep problems, and
they're deep problems.
Not resolvable with mere psychology.
Okay.
We have to go further.
We have to go further.
We may have to create new philosophical foundational programs, software.
I think this is essentially saying, I got nothing. So he's going out, come back later.
Programs that people can run inside their minds. For me, I just go, well, I'll deal with it. The end. Well, I'll deal with it. The end.
Deal with it.
And then I talk to other people and I'm like, they don't have this capacity. They don't believe in themselves. They're terrified of pain. I've had people show up here and in other coaching sessions elsewhere, clearly high on drugs. I said, why did you do that? Well, the doctor gave it to me and I have anxiety. I said, so you feel anxiety before a coaching call, so you pop a Xanny before
How did drugs get into this question?
you talk to me? Do you think I'm stupid? You turned into a frog.
Now, do you see the go-to if his working memory is stressed? And then he might be falling into his claustrum. He needs to find someone to attack with a lot of moral outrage, which gives him a lifeline away from drowning in his inner flashback. Has anyone seen people use this strategy? And then if you follow the attack target, you're missing the drowning. The drowning is the weak point, not the new target. That's the distraction. That's the lifeline. Why they're drowning is why they're triggered. But it's very hard to track because all the dopamine and attention is going towards his outrage. When you get close to someone's vulnerability, they have, especially with more working memory, schizoid defenses, they have this instant jump to a different frame to get you to fight for the frame and avoid their vulnerability.
Or they run away because they've got to take an urgent phone call or go and do something else.
That too. They'll have that as a backup of disappearing. So you have to be somewhat contain them so you can get the vulnerability and keep them there instead of jumping. Or
Paul, dare I say that you can't pin them down?
Or you can't ping too much directly. You have to do it sort of indirectly. Yeah.
Pin them down.
Mm-hmm. If they sense they're being pinned down too much, their defenses will overreact. But the more we understand their vulnerability, that being pinged is a vulnerable threat, being overexposed and over spotlight is engulfment anxiety, engulfment terror. We have to figure out a way to more indirectly address it, or not follow along to this moral outrage, or the attack, or whatever they're going to do. He's attacking his listeners.
In front of my eyes.
See?
And I'm supposed to take you seriously?
This is essentially saying, you give me this fucking question, how dare you give me a question I don't like? That's his body language.
This was playing out in the chat with Robbie.
It's the same tactic, I'm telling you, and it's not very complicated.
It's not. It's just fucking obvious is what it is.
You just have to track the vulnerability. You don't track the words. If you follow the words too much, they're designed to confuse you and design you to get you to get lost somewhere. If you can scale back a little and try to track the emotion, the vulnerability, you can sort of see.
And then the defenses are really
Why did you do that? I'm sorry.
The defenses are desperate. That's what makes it so exciting to be on this schizoid world, but it also makes it so scary. Because when they survive, they get the high. I didn't die, I didn't drown. But when they almost drown, they're terrified because they're at the edge. That's the.
But isn't that sort of chasing the dragon and just coming off the edge of the little? Pierre
They
said
don't
that.
actually want to.
It's the other
where
Pierre
is
one.
it?
The feeling where it starts declining a little bit. It's declining a little bit. It's declining a little bit. The feeling where it starts declining a little bit. It's declining a little bit. It's
That danger edge of almost dying, almost getting caught, or getting away. That's the addictive. That might be addictive because their norm is anhedonia. Their norm is boredom. Their norm is emptiness, because they're rejecting connection. They're rejecting shared emotionality. So they replace it with this high.
seal and in the feeling where it starts declining a little bit. It's declining a little bit. It's declining a little bit.
What she's sharing. All classroom.
I'm anxious about the coaching and I don't like pain. So you self-medicate with a tranquilizer, a powerful tranquilizer.
Bad students for taking tranquilizers because your pain hurts.
God help you. God help you, because I can't. I can't. No faith in one's own ability to endure a difficult situation or pain. I mean, we're really screwed at that point. Really, really screwed. So what do? Yeah, I have a medical condition. Yes, it's going to kill me one day, but something's going to kill me one day anyway.
Sloppy math. My condition's gonna kill me. Something else will sometime in any day. I would just move on or something.
I'm doing my best, but like I can't escape death. I can't escape illness. None of us can.
There's no escape.
What do I do about the fact that I'm going to die one day? Nothing. Laugh. I laugh. Ha.
There's his. He laughs at death.
Ha. I'll be dead.
He does a middle finger to mortality. Isn't that a schizoid position? Tongue jut and middle fingers. Fuck reality, fuck humanity. Fuck the rules.
So what? So what? People live and die all the time. What difference does it make? Does it make me anxious?
It is true, but perhaps the delivery is a bit off.
It's dissociated. The question is a personal question. Now he's just dismissing his humanity and everything. And it's time distortion and dissociative, and or it's just a lot of performative stuff to forget the fucking question. So an overreaction that makes no sense. Go back to the trigger. Go back to when it started. And pay attention to what led to this confusing traffic generation. TG. Noise flood.
Oh, really? Not really. I have immediate problems that make me anxious. I have immediate threats that I think, oh fuck, I need to do something about this. Just do it. Get on with it. I can't. Like, what do I do? So I am going to approach this problem, but it is not a psychological problem. There's nothing wrong with you, with a person who's like that at a neurotic psychological level. They just have to develop a whole new life philosophy. And my God, you know, once they have, how much easier life is going to be if they successfully develop that.
So the end answer is new life philosophy. The original question was, how can people deal with feelings of dread or doom? Develop a new life philosophy, and it's outside the realm of psychology. And get on with it. That was his answer to this question. Yes.
I'm a bruiser. I'm a bruiser. I'm a bruiser. I'm a bruiser. Fight and get some life steal back. Fight and get some life steal back. Fight and get some life steal back. Fight and get some life steal. I'm a bruiser. I'm a bruiser. I'm a bruiser. I'm a bruiser. I'm a bruiser.
Madness is the abyss. Madness is the abyss. Madness is the abyss.
Anything else? Oh, the claustrum. Do we need to cover any of this stuff? Sadism dominates. Hierarchy rules. Truth is meaningless. Relationships collapse. People with claustrum have frightening charisma. They generate an atmosphere of hostage taking. They can be charming, respectful outwardly. How do they survive? Dissimulation, performing, lying, hiding, devious language. Everything feels rehearsed, strategic, or political. Is that a dancing doll? Power becomes their substitute for real emotional connection. But the cost gradually destroys capacity for truth, intimacy, emotional growth, and real thinking. People lose access to guilt, regret, authentic sorrow, and you become trapped in an endless loop of sadistic survival, addictive repetition, and hollow power games. Very sad. Do I have anything to cover the classroom? This guy or that guy? There's so many. Oh, this one. Maybe.
The world is not a safe place. Life is war. There are people out there who do not like you, do not care about you, and will take advantage of you any opportunity they get. The tree of life isn't all the nice, bright stuff.
Life is war. Relationships collapse, hierarchy rules, and sadism dominates. Life is war.
There's another side that they call the Qliphoth, or the hells. You have to protect yourself against them. How do you do that? And this is for all of you, really. I mean, a lot of egregores, particularly like the magical ones, are kind of like permanently being in middle school.
Permanent middle school.
You have to look at her and say, it's good to have friends, but we have to have ourselves. We have to be a strong individual to ourselves if we want to be a good friend to someone else.
There are no allies. No one will come join you. There's no one to help. Wasn't that Schizoidangst worry?
So I can't protect you from the effects of your actions.
This is advice to someone's daughter. You're alone, girl.
I can't protect you from the effects of your thoughts. Only you can. Our thoughts give rise to our feelings to our actions. And it happens like that. The reverse is true with what we expose ourselves to. That visual stimulation, that auditory stimulation gives rise to stimulation, thought, feeling, just like that. So you have to let her know that she has to learn to notice for herself, the situation she is in, for herself. If you develop the capacity to not be ruled by emotions, which is hard at 14, 15, 16, even into the mid-20s, it's hard, emotions. If you develop that capacity at self-reflection and pausing, then you're able to overcome your fears and overcome your anxieties and not be neurotic and all of that. Emotions. But if I had to say,
Fruit control, using language and time distortion to basically attack your humanity. Attack others' humanity. Everything is zero-sum game. Can't trust people, can't trust yourself, can't trust.
say one skill above all that had to be developed is probably concentration. If you can learn how to concentrate, everything else is easy. Everything else comes after that. Emotions.
Learn how to concentrate and everything else is easy. And concentrate with all this wordplay. Anything else to close it out? That's too heavy.
The supply for co-defendants is scenarios that require fixing. So our supply is to be needed, is to be the one who is the rescuer. If you can recognize this as an addiction, and I encourage you to, look at where in your life you're acting like you're addicted to fixing things, just so that you can play out the rescue fantasy, and do see it as being the symmetrical comparative mirror image to narcissism. It's a really unhealthy thing. This is not how a healthy sovereign adult goes through life.
And then rescuing could be
We are very well spoken.
this.
You should have said that in the first place. Well, you should have said that in the first place.
So you could use rescuing as a shield to order people around from teacher role, top down injunctions, and then you could get your codependent fix.
I need my fix in 10 minutes. No, it's the time's running out. I need my fix in 10 minutes. No, it's the time's running out. I need it right now. I think that's what I felt they were feeling. If you left early as well, I think I need it quickly. I need a soundbite every 5 minutes. You know. Like,
What's the codependent fix again?
yes,
Oh,
like
to fix other people. To fix other people.
Yeah.
Save the world.
I think the fixing is another word for gaslighting. I think the fixing is another word for gaslighting.
Oh, wait,
Oh, that's
Pankaj must be
interesting.
onto something there. Let me think about
That's
that, because
what I'm feeling.
that's
Look at my reaction.
you're onto something there. Let me.
I'm not buying it, but I'll entertain it.
Think about that, because
feeling.
that's interesting.
It is kind of a like you're telling them it's okay, it's not, it's going to be all right. You know, it's okay to feel that way. You know, make all the disagreeable emotions go away. It's a kind of gaslighting, I think.
I think the fixing is another word for gaslighting. I think the fixing is another word for gaslighting.
This one. What?
Yes.
I'm trying to a little sort of feeling this, but it's self-directed too. That's the main one. That's what I'm sort of feeling. That's the main gaslight. I will perfect the art of gaslighting me. I will perfect the art of gaslighting me. See, that would be the real poetry. Fuck.
Poetry.
Or like the thing.
Fuck.
Or like.
So he can't hold it. He can't hold it.
Yes, he can't hold it, and then
Giggle, giggle.
giggle, giggle, and me.
It falls through the bottom of the paper bag onto the floor.
Because I think I'm tracking the energy behind this stuff, but I'm not consciously doing the tells.
Or like the thing in you that makes you want to believe what the other person says, like the thing that won't let you stand firm in your conviction. Yeah.
Fixing is another word for gaslighting. I will perfect the art of gaslighting me. I will perfect the art of gaslighting me. I will perfect the art of gaslighting me. Fixing is another word for gaslighting.
That's all, folks.
So this nonverbal learning disorder framework is sort of restructuring everything, so I'm not really sure how that's going to change things moving forward, because now if someone actually doesn't have working memory and it's a resolution problem, it's a disability, I can't demonize them so much because they can't help it.
Yes, you can. You can still do it.
I will have trouble demonizing them as much because I sort of understand more of why they're coming from or where the patterns are.
Yeah, but
for
will
me,
they see-
other people y'all might be able to still continue.
But will they see it? I don't think they'll see it. I don't think that. No. I don't think it'll
But
change.
they'll see what?
Well, if you introduce this new concept, I don't think it will change anything for them.
I think on our side, or on my side, I can call out the behaviors more neutrally, so I won't fall into the defenses as much. I'll be able to be better at counter enactments. How much it'll help them, it could help some of them, so now they sort of have they can mentalize why they struggle. There are people behind the scenes who have shared that the NVLD model has really helped them understand the world and why they're so fearful. So I have gotten back channel feedback. Maybe the people that are more aggressive with their social mask, where they don't have to live in constant fear, they might not be as affected because there's less motivation. Sure.
They have secondary gain by their aggression, because then they dominate, and because they're so brutal, they get their way. So that also gives them benefits. That may be why they will.
Well, they have to be brutal because, or one, it's positive to be brutal because they're passive aggressive a lot. So having an opportunity to release some murderous rage is displacing all this pent up frustration with the world.
Right.
But I would counter that they might be attacking you or me or any individual with excess rage, but it's just because they have too much. They don't see the person they're attacking. They don't have the context. They don't have the resolution. They don't have the perspective. It's a crime of opportunity. It's a crime of convenience. It's not. It feels hyper-personal because the language and the dumping means that it has to be personal. But from their perspective, they're not seeing the target. Or it's fair game. They can't help it. They're too close to the edge of the claustrum. They're too close to the edge of working memory collapse. Anything goes. I will say anything.
Whatever makes you go away, I'll agree with anything if it'll make you happy and shut the fuck up. Whatever makes you go away, go away. Whatever makes you go away, I'll agree with anything if it'll make you happy and shut the fuck up. Whatever makes you go away, go away. Whatever makes you go away.
The fear is falling into their claustrum. The fear is their own breakdown. The fear isn't the social consequences. The fear isn't blowing up the relationships. That's secondary. So you can still have the social consequences, but if you can somehow figure out how to leverage their breakdown and put that as a motivator. That should be a more leveraged argument. Instead of saying you should fear me, where they're already fearing the whole world. They're already distrusting everyone in the world, so if you're trying to be more scary to them and your consequence is to punish them, that's already a given. That was the observation that anyone can turn into a demon. Me and Holly had a battle over that, and then she disappeared for 6 months or something. And she admitted the demon comment and then spent like an hour and a half saying, I didn't say demon, I don't believe demon. Demon isn't in the Bible.
Oh, there's a lot of shit in
I
there.
am annihilated in the face of your demonology. I affirm your observation. I am annihilated in the face of your demonology. I affirm your observation. I am annihilated in the face of your demonology. I affirm.
That's a rare.
I affirm your observation.
That's a rare admission by Havisham there.
It was. That's why I think she disappeared after that soon.
Too much spotlight.
Being overexposed
yeah.
in spotlight. Pankaj has specifically complained about me being too much spotlight, and somehow that is too much. So too much overexposure being seen too much triggers engulfment terror. Oh, this was a theory that I wasn't able to work out, that part of their hiding in the claustrum is hiding in the maternal rectum, the mom's asshole. So when they fight with other people, they try to hide in your asshole. So that's why they can be shitty, and they try to hide in your negative crap. So then they try to spread it. They try to overextend it. That's where John is able to like really poke really shitty asshole stuff, because that's their social strategy. The world is too scary. They want to get the good breast, and they mistake the asshole as the way to control the breast, the mom's asshole.
But
don't.
We dispatched John, you and me, that fateful day, and it didn't take much.
Well, one is to agree and amplify weakens the insults.
That's what we did.
Then two, I think if you just flood them where their language counters don't work, you just ignore it, or you just reframe it back to attacking them.
Oh, and diminish. Just diminish them.
They're diminished because their playing field is only the verbal landscape. So if you forget context and you forget respect and back and forth, and you just pepper them with questions and you're stupid, you're this, and they got no defenses.
Yeah, it was amazing. Just nothing there.
Mm-hmm. That was Ranko 77's fear, that everybody else can instantly turn into his or her God voice. So you just have to steal the God voice mantle and just flood them with a bunch of judgment that hurts, and they're stuck.
Yeah, John appeared fearless for a while, but ultimately came unstuck pretty easily.
Well, that's usually if someone is too aggressive, they're overexposed. So if you can somehow find their overexposure and then just stay on that, then collapse.
Yeah.
That is fucking terrifying. That is fucking terrifying. That is.
Well, my response to that is don't bring it if you can't handle it. You want to turn up here and carry on like that? Great. I get the same rights and obligations as you do.
If one person plays one game, then the other person ups a game, and then that's ideal. We'll have to somehow see what this next evolution of VG might be.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting, this one.
So we still need to get some sort of fresh blood or something.
Well, there's no turning back now.
Or pull in old blood, or steal from ALG, or...
Default's fresh blood.
Yes.